Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee, I'm here with Mercedes-Benz brand new nameplate, the CLE. And this new coupe looks to combine a bunch of Mercedes nameplates into one car. So today we're going to see just how it stacks up with the best and the rest. Let's get into it. And that seems like a good place to start the video. What is this thing? Because the CLE is an entirely new nameplate, and it's a replacement for the C and the E-Class, and even considered the S-Class cabrios and coupes. It does lean more E-Class than C-Class, especially in size. It's slightly wider and longer than the old E-Class coupe, and there's also supposedly a soft-top cabriolet coming for the CLE. Now the first thing we're going to start talking about has to do with the engines, and here you get several options. In the US at least, the 300 that we're in now is the base. There's a 200 overseas that doesn't come with all-wheel drive, but the 300 here comes with all-wheel drive as standard, and it's the same 2-liter turbocharged engine that we're kind of used to seeing. 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet, comes with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. We've seen it before. It's a solid engine, but then there's the CLE 450, which replaces this 2-liter with a 3-liter inline 6, which is a very good engine, and that bumps power up quite a bit. There's rumor of an upcoming plug-in hybrid that might bring 60 miles of range, but then there's also the CLE 53 AMG, which looks pretty amazing, I must say. There's no word yet of whether or not they're going to bring the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 to make maybe something like a CLE 63. I'm getting ahead of myself. The point being, everything comes with a 48-volt mild hybrid, but I would kind of feel like if I bought this, I need to go to the 450. The 300 is good, it's fine, but the 450 is going to be very good. And of course we have to talk price, and in typical Mercedes fashion, it's just a little bit more expensive than everything else. The CLE in 300 starts at $57,650. If you want to go up to the straight 6 and get more power and performance, you're looking at about $65,650 to start. And as tested, this thing has a bunch of kit on it, and it's testing at just over $70,000. Compare that to something like a BMW 4 Series with xDrive, which is going to start at $52,700, so about $5,000 less than where this CLE starts. But this is a bigger, more luxurious car than that 4 Series. And the same thing with the Audi A5, which starts just under $50K and just over $46K for the 4-door. But again, this is bigger, sleeker, and more luxurious than either the BMW or the Audi. But then switching gears and talking about all the best things about this car, I'm going to start with the styling. And I know styling can be a bit subjective, but I have to say, from the profile, or well, really any angle that you look at this car, it is just a lot sleeker and more visually appealing than a C-Class or maybe even an E-Class, depending on who you are. Now from the profile, you can see that this thing is noticeably longer. It's longer even than the outgoing E-Class coupe. The grille is larger and rounder than the C-Class. You don't get the black bezel around it in the new E-Class. And the 450 gets the inlaid star AMG line as standard, but here we've got the AMG line as an option. Headlights are a little bit sharper, you get LEDs as standard, and you can get the digital light option. And with the digital light option, you're looking at 2 hash marks, which I guess would signify that it's part of the E-Class family. The wheels do look pretty cool. I love the Gatsby-esque design of them. And the profile is almost a little sportbacky, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And the taillight is kind of that faux full width that we saw on the new GLC. And of course, the trunk release is the Mercedes-Benz Star. I love that, as I've talked about a number of times. And if you go for the CLE 53, the most performance-oriented option that you can get here, as of now anyway, it looks the business. It looks proper, aggressive, and sporty. But even here in base CLE 300, I think it looks pretty sleek. And then I want to talk about the on-road or the driving experience, because it does drive a little sportier than a C-Class, as you might expect, something with less doors to have. But this also is bigger than a C-Class. It's bigger than the outgoing E-Coupe as well. You get the optional adaptive suspension, you get optional rear steer here, and the startup noise is pretty quiet due to the fact that it's 48-volt mild hybrid system. You got 4 drive modes here, but the ride is very solid. It's very comfortable, it's very smooth, the 9-speed is very smooth, you've got power and torque when you want it, but it's refined and eased back when you want to just be engulfed in luxury. And you know how a lot of manufacturers are going to like kind of that fake pumped in engine sound? It's very commonplace, it's been happening for years. Well, the 450 here, I've not been able to find it in the 300, but in the 450 CLE, you'll be able to get, I forget what it's like, progressive sport sound. There's a button that's basically going to synthesize a C63 AMG and its exhaust note, and it's paired to your throttle and your RPM, and it's like, I don't know, a total gimmick, but also kind of cool. Would you rather have your car sound like an AMG or not sound like an AMG? But the point that I'm trying to make here behind the wheel is this feels more E-Class than C-Class. This feels very refined, very substantial, and very luxurious. And I like it. And as we start to talk about the interior experience, it's worth noting that, yeah, it's a Mercedes, it's very familiar, and that's got a lot of pros with it. Your seats, for example, come heated as standard, and here we have the optional cooled seat, and we've also got the optional massage. You've got a heated steering wheel option, you can get synthetic leather as base, or go up to even a more high-end genuine leather. But the interior design is very familiar to what we've seen in the newer Mercedes. The materials are pretty solid, the textures are interesting, and I love this power red interior. The only place that you might find a little ding is the fact that you can't option the super screen like we had on that E-Class tester. But you do get the very cool steering wheel, and the ambient light, of course, adds a lot of drama to this cabin. So in classic Mercedes fashion, from a visual and just experiential perspective, it is more an event sitting here than in really any other German car. And while this may be packing 2 fewer doors than the majority of the rest of the Mercedes-Benz lineup, it's actually shockingly practical here. We're going to talk about trunk and rear seats. The trunk, as you saw, is powered, which is very nice, and of course it's powered lock and close, and it's 14.8 cubic feet, which is very similar to the C-Class. It is noticeably deep toward the rear seats, and of course they fold 40-20-40. You've got your classic netted bins on the side, and you do have a little storage under the floor. And then when it comes to the rear seats, they're surprisingly livable. More for legroom than for headroom, but still. You've got speakers, cup holders, vents back there. You don't have a climate zone, you don't have pockets back there, but you do get a center pass-through, and that pano-ish roof is standard. What it translates to then is a fairly livable back seat, a surprisingly livable back seat, and something that you're not really going to get in the 4 Series, definitely not in the 4 Series, and really not in the A5 unless you go for the 4-door Sportback. But here, knee room's not bad, it's just lacking a little bit of headroom, but those are the sacrifices that you make for this sloping roofline. And I'm going to touch on the drivetrain pretty briefly here and just say that no matter what engine you get, you're going to get a 9-speed automatic. And no matter what car you get here in North America, you're going to get 4MATIC all-wheel drive as standard. In Europe and other markets, you're going to get a CLE 200 that'll be rear-wheel drive base, but here, you're going to get all-wheel drive as standard, and that means it's good for 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds here in the CLE 300. That's the base car. It's big. It's also 1 mpg more efficient than a normal C300. So it's powerful, it's capable, it's practical, all seasons, and it's efficient. What's not to like? And when it comes to technology, much like the interior design and build and everything, it's very classic Mercedes. It's very familiar. You'll get things like your head-up display that works in tandem with your navigation system to tell you exactly where to turn. Of course, that's reserved for the Pinnacle trim. But you get the completely digital 12.3-inch digital cluster. It's endlessly customizable. And then your center screen is that more vertical-oriented screen that we first saw in the SL and the S-Class. Of course, it's in the C-Class as well. And it's got the updated MBUX graphics. Wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, augmented reality navigation works in here. And now you've got that 5G tech like in the new E-Class. And of course, you've got your 360 cameras with the AR view and your front camera that functions as a traffic light view. So what it comes down to is pretty much anything you could possibly want in here, you got. Okay, so we're not actually going to launch it because no one's rushing to YouTube to see a CLE 300 launch, but I'm going to put our foot in it. I mean, it's fine, it's good. Torquey, almost 300 pound-feet of torque, 255 horsepower. Very familiar kind of 4-cylinder soundtrack. If you do go up for the 450, you'll get that straight 6 and you'll get the synthesized, like fake C63 AMG sound. I haven't tested it myself, but hopefully that's cool. I don't know, it's very much a gimmick. It kind of divides us socially and culturally and philosophically, but what we want to talk about here is the CLE 300 behind the wheel. Because basically what we're seeing here is a very familiar experience, visually anyway. And I have to say, behind the wheel, it's very good. It's not the sporty one. If you want the sporty one, wait for the CLE 53. That's going to be a straight 6 turbo. Everything's going to have a mild hybrid system, so you're not going to get that like boom startup sound. Maybe you'll get some emotion start if you hold that upshift paddle while you start the car, but it will be a little bit more sedate. But there's a couple words that I would use to describe this car behind the wheel. There's 3 really. Subtle, sleek, and smooth. everything here is incredibly smooth. I know there's a letter C on here. This is a CLE class. This is more E-class than C-class. It feels much more refined. It feels more substantial. The ride, the damping, you can get the optional adaptive dampers. You can get optional rear steer. I don't know that you need it. This isn't that big, although it is an inch longer than the outgoing C-class coupe. But here, what I found is it's incredibly manageable. The steering is light and easy. It's a good luxury car experience. If you're looking for more of a sporty, exciting, dynamic experience, maybe look at the 450, maybe save some money, go for the CLE 53, but as a luxury coupe, this is pretty good. And it kind of has to be, because this is kind of combining the C coupe, the E coupe, and even the S coupe. They're not making the S coupe anymore. Just gonna let it go in comfort. It's fine. It's perfectly good. This will also, I believe there's rumor that this will also come in a soft top for cabriolet. So all of the two-door, aside from like the GT, all of the, and the SL of course, all of the two-door Benzes are gonna be this thing now. So no more like four-door CLS coupe, no more E-class coupe, C-class coupe, S-class coupe. It's all kind of glommed into this. And I have to say, I think they've done a good job of kind of culminating everything into one vehicle, because they've kind of used the E-class footprint as the kind of middle ground, and I think that was smart. Because it's a nice and genuine luxury car experience. I'm getting a massage right here, I've got cooled seat, like all of the features that you could want. Maybe you want the super screen. I think that's really the only thing that like you could want that you wouldn't get here. But the rest of it, the ride is very good. The cabin is incredibly isolated. The seating position makes sense. I can sit nice and low and have the steering wheel come to me. It's very natural. And it's smooth. And it's nice. And I think that's kind of what people are looking for something like this. Now I'm very excited then, having said that, to try the CLE 53. Because I think this thing looks cool. And I think the CLE 53 looks really cool with those wheels and the flared hips and the wide tires and all that stuff. But here, in the CLE 300, it's pretty good. Definitely like it more than the C-Class. It definitely does feel more E-Class, and I like that. So that's the best and the rest of the new CLE, in 300 form at least. And thanks again to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee for letting us have a go and check out the new CLE. And I guess if I were to describe and sum up this car in 3 words, you could do it with sleek, subtle, and smooth. The driving experience is incredibly smooth, the gearbox and everything. The styling is sleek and it's subtle in classic Mercedes fashion, and I kind of like it for that. So thanks to you for watching. Thanks again to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee, and we'll see you in the next one.